Lume, ime, sume, rame, chume, rome, reja, chume, domi, ye, kame, bane, yeje, kame, yeje, namba, chibe, hamje, bardo, yambe, mare, bame, mare, base, bame, bane, gashi, me, gashi, sebe, bardo, yambe, do, deje, do, dunga, wa, kunja, wa, nambo, wa, da, lame, yeje, me, do, lame, mado, ba, yambe, chare, bode, da, ve, na, janjo, semba, na, to, ba, me, be, je, shira, je, baro, do, chimba, la, den, je, ne, semba, je, ba, me, be, tra, ba, me, de, chen, je, lo, ne, chin, do, de, nge, le, de, be, tar, chen, do, de, som, do, nam, bra, shu, be, sang, je, nam, je, jang, shira, je, ba, do, shira, je, baro, do, chin, be, ma, ri, ba, chin, be, la, na, me, be, mi, nya, ba, da, yang, be, dong, la, dam, je, ra, do, she, bra, she, be, mi, ze, ba, na, ne, bra, she, ba, shira, je, baro, chin, be, ma, me, ba, te, yang, ta, wom, ga, de, para, samgade bodhi soha tadya thavam gade paragade samgade bodhi soha teya thavam gade paragade parasamgade bodhi soha jare bojan josem bosem bojim bode do shira je paro do jim sambo la pracha vode ne chom de denge zele jende chang josem bosem bojim papa jere se won jo la le so je chawa jin le so le je bode de jende chidra chuje dem ba jin do shira je paro do jim ba sambo la je pracha je je ba nam je so ye ram bo jam de je de ge je ko so ne se na de mo sha re do de bo kan jo sen ba je re se wan jo da tham je da de be khor de da pa da me da la ma yin je sa je be je de ye ram de jam de je sum ba la mo bra de
We will begin with the opening prayers.
dame de be de bagaye ba chung le ne ne prase je ne yang da su la ne be de ju ji ten la ne bra zo de so and che da ra ji ga na ma de che da na da be che so je ba na Vendra chere gyoba nise ne Tensan le she domdre so ande Dedan denge duma tamje pa yon senge she le jonsen Tome me pa kombe pijon Tebe pare sendre so ande Sende chanjuro yin be be se se san membra ni ne radote Chelo se ba cheve nam daraji Kume temba dender so ande Chambe loji ninji donjo Tan jawa me ba ngin jo nam Brada Tome gyoda jela da gyoshi meda ngebra sindri soa Nyevo ngelo gezi me donshi kati shaya nyebu chelenchi Keve ngazu sambo me donwe Shinyin penze gandri soa So sonra dena nyamjane Jange sosura jebe shiragi Chero jesu jubra mi sheba Ngete tambra chete soa Chembro chala zishi jishi Loi me nama daba nam ye sanjirane Gela jove lodre gebe Nyonso ngora zede soa Tedra yende jele ge kanto Chashi jube lusun tende Bagama baye gomba zonje sho Ho sanje jedan soye sho nama la chancho bando dane yesus Tage junye gibe sanama ye rola ben sanje ro Barajo sangye jedan soye shonaman chanjo bado dane yazut Dagi jenye gibe sanan ye rola ben sangye ro barajo sangye jedan soye shonaman chanjo bado dane yazut Dagi jenye gibe sanama ge rola ben sangye ro barajo chanze wadan cheje shabat jeso ye ra guje sawa gewa jose dagi jesa ba tamje dam chanjo jemo Sashi bücü joji medo Reja veli Ninde gemban Sangye jindo mede büvay Rogen anda jinla jebra jo Simje namye samba Loye jera jeda Shizhon de monde bayi chege kolo kodo so. 다들 토마 ane namlengi samlolya ane sam지기 sam지 아래 땅에 되면 되고 가지서 저러저러는 나라전이다 내가 너 유명해서 내가 나가야 가자는 왜 이러저러 너가 먼저 방아요 나도 저도마다 방금 담에 지는데 잘라다는 면면지 양보만 계속 주시게 저 자와자와 나와서 계속으로도 시대되지 대단히 담에 지는데 이제 가나 조조도 이제 되나 대실로 잡아 가서 되게 비시게 잡게 녀마도 대단히 이제 하에게 다루는 이제 로고나다 매간 로그인이라고 해서 뭐 탐지게 도다게 제대로 서비스에서 예를 들고 게르시로 시험하신 몇 이시가서 딩담에 외도 도전자와 라마라 자기에 감사를 미르다면서 미름 유도를 좀 대신 구신 리보던스 봐요 진라마 규버지야란데 시제가라 히럽 영어에서 배우는 제는 뭐 예외된 부분에서 그 유를 못 살아 자서 반대로 제 상황을 근소하는 마감마 기록을 근전해서 집에 이동네 좀 맞추려고 이제 저걸 언제 쉬면 좀 내려 안 해주세요. 그건 다음에 도지 경우라서 반대서 하는 말을 못해 나게 저를 배면 되셔라. 그런 심에 관해 구성도 경우로 자도 이제 저 남자도 예수로 건드려는 뭐라 대수 저는 이거 이게 도지 상라서 안 돼. 나나서 다 되는데 남부랭이 상황을야 자시비에게 섬지슈와도 첩지도
Today, I would like to wish you all a warm welcome.
남부랭이 상황 마시다 자비 유리아 쇼요아래
Now, many of you are in India and Nepal.
다다다 내암들이야 야 토즈브로 나와야지 계심시라 인사를 삼정도
And so I think it is very important for you to be very careful during this epidemic.
야 근데 나로야 지금 미세게 하나로 시다지 지금도 수도와
They say that these days in India and that area that they are not paying too much attention to the epidemic and they're being rather relaxed about it. And I have some strong feelings about that. I think it is very important for all of you to continue to be very careful about that. So that is something I wish to say. So yesterday, my camera didn't behave well, and so we ended the teaching for us. And so today I will continue with the remainder of the topic of Dharma Lord Deshen Shepa's travels to China. Now, after the time of the Tibetan emperor, Tibet was splintered. And so after it splintered, the old Chinese historical documents from the time of the Sung dynasty onwards, it's not certain that usually during the Tang dynasty they would call they would call the area of Tibet by the Tibetan name Pur or the Tibetan name Tu Bo. So this is a Tibetan Chinese transliteration of the Tibetan word. And so if we look at the for actually the Tibetan Chinese dictionaries found in the Dunhuang manuscripts, it is very clear. So before that they called it Tu Bo. But later from the Sung dynasty onward, they stopped calling it by the name Tibet or Tubo. Instead, they started calling Uzang. So for that time, so when the Ming Emperor Yongle invited the Lord of Dharma, Deshen Shekpa, they said it's written on the histories that he invited him from Uzang. In any case,
공매기 여비용이게 내셔 죽네. 다들 내셔 죽네. 아니 자나가 수익금.
the main thing he did was perform the ceremony on behalf of the emperor's deceased parents. Now, in Chinese culture, benefiting your parents is extremely important. So the emperor had completed fast, had invited Deshin Shakpa to perform these ceremonies on the behalf of his parents, and so this is considered one of the greatest acts of service that is considered most important in Chinese culture. Not only that, the Emperor Yongle Emperor Yongle also had lengthy discussions with Deshin Shakpa on the political strategies to take with regard to Tibet. So I discussed this yesterday, but the main point is that the emperor's first hope was that Deshin Shakpa would do as was done during the Mongol or Yuan dynasty. When Drogon Chujio Pacha had taken both political power and responsibility. And so the emperor had the hope that Deshin Shakpa would do the same. Also, the Yuan Emperor Kublai Khan had given titles such as to Drogon Chujio Pacha, such as Precious King of Dharma to Drogon Chujio Pacha. And so Yongle also gave these same titles, with just a few minor differences in words, to Deshin Shakpa. And so it seems from this that we can understand that he had a great hope that Deshin Shakpa would, like Drogon Chujio Pacha, take both political and spiritual responsibility. However, Deshin Shakpa had no desire to accept any political power or responsibility. Not only, he also explained that if they had done as one done during the Mongolian times, the Yuan dynasty, when the Mongol armies went to Tibet. So he said that if the Ming emperor did the same and sent Chinese armies to Tibet, it would bring strife and turmoil to the people of Tibet. And he also explained that having so many Dharma lineages in Tibet was beneficial to the Tibetan people because it helped fulfill their wishes. Not only did he say that, not only that, he asked them to give the religious and secular leaders of Tibet positions and titles that would show them recognition. And so the Ming Emperor, the histories record that the Ming Emperor did the same, and gave the titles to the religious and secular leaders. Also, after Deshin Shakpa returned to Tibet, and so the Ming Emperor invited Lord Tsongkhapa. So Tsongkhapa was unable to go, but he offered, but he also invited Jamchen Chögye, so from the Geluk order. So in brief, he invited Jamchen Chögye of the Geluk order, Tekchen Chögye of the Sakya, and so forth, and he gave them similar titles as he had for Deshin Shakpa. Even after Emperor Yongle, the Ming emperors continued the tradition of giving religious titles and secular titles to lamas of all the Tibetan traditions. And I think that this would not go too far to say that this occurred because of the thoughts that Deshin Shakpa shared with the Emperor Yongle, that these thoughts had an influence on this practice. Likewise, when Deshin Shakpa was staying in Nanjing, he made many suggestions to the emperor. So in Tibet, there are many So they had on his suggestion, the emperor had
Ndegi ta khanda ji simje la ta tuk zewen zeba sanan rang tu.
where they were prisoners from prisons. So this is love of ancient beings, and he showed this in his acts many times. So this story of liberation, this example, is similar to a prediction made by the previous Karmapa ruler, Badoja. He said a pure bhikshu will pass away on this mountain, and if his body is cremated, then there will not be a war between China and India. And so that is where Deshin Shekpa passed away, on that very same mountain. And his body was cremated on that mountain, and so because of that, because of that, because of his successor was able to go to India and invite that and prevent the wars between China and India. Also, when Deshin Shekpa was offered a praise by the Emperor of Gendungang, and so it also said he said that the later incarnation of Lope Dorje would be able to protect many sentient beings from danger and to bring them happiness. And so understanding this, and he would know this and would take rebirth intentionally. And so that was Deshin Shekpa. And so the person who said this was the Khenpo of Gendungang. He was not a Karma Kagyu Lama. And so for many such reasons, so the Deshin Shekpa had such great acts, did such great deeds in China, they returned to Tibet, and at that time, many people came to welcome him on his return. And even the king of Dharma, Lord Tsongkhapa, also sent a letter to Deshin Shekpa, and the contents of this letter are collected in the short works of Je Tsongkhapa. There are many stanzas in this, and so he says, Tsongkhapa said that for the teaching of the Buddha to flourish, the person who takes responsibility is there's no one like Deshin Shekpa, the Karmapa. And so I don't need to necessarily do you, but you continue to do this. And so this is the praise that Tsongkhapa offered to Deshin Shekpa. Likewise, along with the letter, he sent a statue of the Buddha Shakyamuni sitting in the seated position of Maitreya as well from the Rajang monastery. And that monastery was, even in later times, was brought by the 16th Karmapa when he fled Tibet, and it is brought to Rinpoche Monastery, and it is kept there. Also, the Rondon Sheje Kunsik, the Sakya master, and many other masters said that he wrote letters saying that it was like a Buddha who had the Buddha returning to this world. And so Jepal Tsulak recorded that he actually saw these letters. And so there are many other such events. Then also there was a direct disciple of Deshin Shekpa named Jamyang Chenpo of Tsurpo. And he wrote a liberation story of the Lord of Dharma. And we have this now, and it used to be unavailable before, but now we have it. But it said that during the time Deshin Shekpa was in China, that it wasn't only the officials of various ranks, such as the Menger Emperor, who came for audiences. There were
就是啥呢？俺地心西北个野党、原党、绿党夹的说了呀，俺老早啊，给
they
就
spoke many different languages. And so, because they spoke so many different languages, Deshin Shekpo would teach Dharma with 4 or 5 translators to his sides and in front and behind him. And so, of these people, many of them had traveled for many days, prostrating with each step they took as they came to see Deshin Shekpa. So this is the old Chinese. This is the old Chinese tradition. It's doing a prostration for every 3 steps. And so there were many people who came to see Deshin Shekpa, and they traveled in this fashion. And so what Deshin Shekpa did is he primarily had them recite the name mantras of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and to make commitments to such as giving up killing and so forth. And so he inspired them to practice, or encouraged them to practice virtue, as Jamyang Chimpo's biography of Deshin Shekpa says. Now, what I'd like to say kind of in relation to this, now in the Chinese National Library's collection, so in the Chinese National Library,
大家别日语难点的、普语难点的，不如里啊，就把水给举在爬水去，别的。
in their connection, there is a text about the exchange between China and Tibet of both Buddhist texts and of printing techniques. And this is called the names, images, and name mantras of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. So there is this text, and I'd like to show you this text. Later, they published this text in book form. And so I'd like to show this. So this is the book. And so the name of this book is The Names, Images, and Name Mantras of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And the content of this text is primarily written in Chinese, but there's also the Lensa letters. This is the same as the Ranjana script used by the Newaris in Nepal, and also there's Tibetan and Mongolian and Chinese text. And so at the introduction and conclusion, there are primarily Chinese. And so these 3 sections here that primarily give the images, names, and name mantras of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And so among these 3 sections, there is an image of Deshin Shekpa, which I show you up to the side. So that is an image of the Dharma Lord Deshin Shekpa. And this was printed in 1431, which is the 6th year of the reign of the Emperor Xuande. And the person who printed it was Deshin Shekpa's Chinese student Xiu Jishan, Shuo Shanzhi. Now, on the forward of this text, there are both Tibetan and Tibetan text. Now, the Chinese text has been largely lost, but the Tibetan is more or less complete. And what it says is, and so the Lord of the Dharma Lord Gampopa, the King of Dharma, has shared many of the dharmas and scriptures that he had given, and so these are now printed in this book. And so many people who do research describe this as, say that this is an important text that is a good source for describing how the Tibetan Buddhism spread to the east into the Chinese areas. And so this There's a similar text in this. There's and so another text that is from the Ming Dynasty called Ziyu Chai Song Shun. It has the same meaning and the same influence as this text. And the main point of this text is that at the Lingu temple, when Dishin Shekpa had performed the great ceremonies there are the many different auspicious signs, the music from the sky, divine music from the sky, and everyone saw this and heard about it. And so all of the emperors all went to see the emperor, and there was one educated one, sort of like we could say a doctor these days would say. There's a doctor named Hu Guan. And they wrote the lyrics for a song, which they called Auspicious Omens in the Sky. And so since so it's because it was a service for the emperor's parents, that is why these omens appeared in the sky. And so from that time on, the emperor, of course, had even more faith in Deshin Shekpa and and studied or read the Buddhist scriptures with even more assiduously than he had before. He also just wrote Dharma melodies, and they were performed in song and dance in the palace. The 17th year of Yongleu's reign, the emperor finished reciting these elements, and he included it with in a printing of a book with some pictures of the Buddha, and it was distributed widely. Then on the 12th day of the 9th month, the emperor went to Dabaong, in Dabaong's monastery, that if you translate it into English, it would be say the monastery, great monastery of Repine, the great monastery of Repaying Kindness. And so at that time, he had it reprinted and spread there greatly. Also in the area of Hai'an, he made sure that the book and the melodies and the words and melodies spread in the area of Hainan. 16th day of the 5th month. That is in the next year, on the 5th month. He asked with the daughter Lojun, and basically we're saying the two ministers to print and spread these texts with the names of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and the melodies in Shanzhi and Henan regions. And so the Buddha really, his mind moved in the direction of Dharma. He had such great interest in the Dharma that his queens also had great respect for the Buddha and Bodhisattvas. And for the sake of all the people who had faith in the Dharma, he built many monasteries, both inside and outside of the city of Nanjing. They said it was filled with temples. So when we look at these histories, so I think that this picture, the text whose pictures I've been showing you, is probably an example, is one copy of the text that the Emperor Yongleu printed and had distributed. And the reason for this is that so this text of this compilation by the emperor of the names and Dharma melodies spread so widely. So there's probably many of them were printed. So I think that this is probably that. And so I think that this is probably now the text that I am showing you right now. Now at that time we said that he wrote Dharma melodies. When we say, I need to explain what we mean by Dharma melodies. Dharma melodies means, as I said before, previously during the time of the second Karmapa Karmapakshari, wherever he went, he would wear the black crown. He'd wear the black crown, and he'd sing the Mani mantra and spread that practice. And this tradition is recorded in the old histories, right? And so, just as during the time of Karmapakshi, the later Karmapas also continued this form of activity. And so later, also when the Karmapas would wear the black crown, they would also recite the melodies. Now later, during the time of the 16th Karmapa, when they wear the during the 16th Karmapa, when he wore the black crown, they would play the gyalings, but they wouldn't be reciting the melodies. But during the time of the earlier Karmapas, it was primarily benefiting people by the Mani mantras, the Mani melody, as that was the melody that was sung at that time. So basically, when you talk about these Dharma melodies that are spoken, I think this is closely related to the Mani melody. Now, most people think that, but no, I think because everyone had seen so many miraculous signs at that time, that people naturally would feel faith and belief in that, right? And so Deshe Shepa had held these ceremonies and rituals, and every day there were so many auspicious signs that occurred. There wasn't just the people of any higher rank, but also within the public, there are many who developed faith and belief. And so many of them would recite Om Mani Padme Hum day and night. And since they recited so many manis, there was some confusion. There's the Rushan clan, which really practiced Confucianism. They didn't particularly like Buddhism. And so they kind of secretly made a way to, they call him the Dharma Kim, right? They say he has if he has articles. And so there's no need to say that, because no need to say Om Mani Padme Hum, because he'll know, because the moment you think of him, he'll know. So why would you need to recite Om Mani Padme Hum? Instead of reciting Om Mani Padme Hum, you can't really translate it into Chinese. What you should say is An Ba Ni Hong, which means Om Mani Padme Hum. You should say, instead of saying Om Mani Padme Hum, you should An Ba Ni Hong. And so these days in English, it's the same when we say in English sometimes Om Mani Padme Hum. And so they did the same way. So they're kind of many people say Om Bani Hong. Om Bani Hong. It means I'm flattering you. And so I'm flattering you is what it means. They said it's better to just recite it like that, they say. So there were people who said that likewise at that time. The palace guards at the emperor's palace, when they were on duty, every day they would alternate and be on duty, and they would recite the Mani mantra day and night. And they recited it so much that even Yongle had to criticize him for that. Because instead of doing their guard of jobbing the palace, they're only reciting Mani mantras, and so even Yongle was criticized, saying, "Why are you doing that? Aren't you doing your jobs? You should do your jobs," he said. And so this is also recorded in the histories from that time. So basically, at that time, there are many similar events to this. So what is the relation between having faith in the Karmapa and the reciting the 6-syllable mantra? You might wonder, isn't the 6-syllable mantra, Mani mantra, isn't that the Avalokiteshvara's mantra? So here, we have to look at this. In this text, there are 63 different images of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And the 26th of these is the image of Deshe Shekpa. Now, if you look at this image, there are the Chinese letters, right? First, there's the Chinese letters. This next line, there is the Lhasa and the Tibetan. And then there are the vertical letters, and those are that is Mongolian writing. And what it says in Tibetan is the mantra of Guru Karmapa, or the precious king of Dharma, Om Mani Padme Hum. It's very, very clear in Chinese, right? In Tibetan, it's not as clear. It says prostrate to the Lord of Dharma, Karmapa, Om Mani Padme Hum. But in Chinese, it's very clear, the mantra of Guru Karmapa, or the precious king of Dharma, Om Mani Padme Hum. And so at that time, it's not like reciting Karmapa Chenyu, as we said today. There was no tradition of saying that as we do these days. And so because there's talk of the Karmapa being an emanation of Chenrui Zik, there was the tradition of reciting the name of the mantra of the Om Mani Padme Hum mantra of Avalokiteshvara. And also, could also have been because Karma Pakshi had emphasized the Mani practice so much that, and also when Deshin Shepa went to China, he also recited it somewhat. And so for this reason, that is, at that time in China also, there was the six-syllable mantra also spread widely in China. So basically, with the support of the Kaju emperor, and from that time, the six-syllable mantra spread widely in the Ming Dynasty and the Tibetan Buddhism as well. And I think that there is a great, profound connection here. So basically, but basically, we say that after the Yongle, the Ming emperors also continued to support and spread Tibetan Buddhism. For example, during the time of the Ming Emperor Xuanzong, during the Ming Emperor Xuanzong's time as well, there were over 1,000 Tibetan monks in Beijing. Likewise, during the times of the Ming Emperor Yingzong, they also prepared a special place to serve Tibetan monasteries, monks and nuns' meals, and they also built a monastery for them to stay in. Also, during the Ming Emperor Xiaozong's, Tibetan monks and nuns were brought into the palace to perform rituals. Also, during the time of Ming Wuzong, Wuzong was the one who invited Mikyo Dorje. And so he had even more interest in Tibetan than before. And he also even learned Tibetan. He would wear the robes of Tibetan monks and so forth. And so I'll talk about this. I think I'll speak about this later when I describe this later when I speak about how he invited Mikyo Dorje. Now, when Deshin Shepa had done the ceremonies at Lingo Temple, but he didn't like staying in the city, and so he went to Wutai Mountain, and he spent a long time there. And as I mentioned yesterday, at Wutai Mountain there is the Shandong Temple, and also there is the stupa of the Buddha Ashoka, and these are restored, and so the emperor offered them to the Buddha. And so this is probably the first Tibetan Buddhist temple at Wutai Mountain. Later, after that, the Jamchen Chuje and Techen Chuje also went to Wutai Mountain. And so basically, in Chinese Buddhism, there are four sacred places for the four Buddhisms. Wutai Mountain is the sacred site of Manjushri, but this is a different site than the other sacred sites. This is the most important place where both Chinese and Tibetan Buddhists gathered together, and I think that this is because of reasons such as this. Likewise, when one would go to the Ming capital of Beijing, you'd go to the Forbidden City, or into the city, They would sell Tibetan Buddhist images and malls, and also the people buying kapalas or skulls. And so, if you want to get a kapala, how do you get it? You can only get it from the corpses of people who've passed away. And so they dug up many. There's a reason that many people dug up graves and stole a lot of skulls. And so at that time in China, you're not allowed to dig up cemeteries. This is considered very bad. And so there's many questions where people were prosecuted for this. And so it seems that there were a lot of people in the Chinese capitals and Chinese cities who had a great interest in Tibetan Buddhism and tantric practice. So now, Deshen Shekpa spent basically 2 full years in Chinese. However, his influence was really strong. Likewise, his students continued to stay in Chinese and take the responsibility to spread Dharma in China. To give an example of this, among the people who came to invite Deshen Shekpa from Tibet to China, there was a monk called the Chiguan monk. And later he became a very good practitioner. And he became an important translator from Chinese to Tibetan and back. Another great student of Deshen Shekpa, who was a great translator, was someone who was with Deshen Shekpa when he was in Nanjing, and someone who also brought with him back to Tibet, and whom he gave many instructions that had brought back with him to Tibet and gave him many instructions. And his name was Palden Tashi. And he was one of the most famous Chinese Tibetan translations in the Ming Dynasty. So he translated texts from Chinese to Tibetan, from Tibetan to Chinese. And so he he received many instructions on the 6 dharmas and so forth. He spent a long time in Chinese and teaching many Chinese people and the Chinese ministers into the Dharma. And he lived into the time until the reign of Inzong. So he had a very long life. And so the emperor gave him the rank and title of the Shijian Buddha. And so there were both monastic students of Deshen Shekpa in China, and also there's many lay people as well. One of the most famous one was the person whom was someone whom Yongle, the Emperor Yongle, had a great really relied on greatly. The very famous state of Junla. He went to the west to Tibet 7 times. Oh, so excuse me, went to the west. So he was among the first ones who crossed the oceans to the west. And so is the eunuch Changhe. He was really extremely fan of some Chinese histories. He went and he explored and discovered many new places. He was a very important historical figure. And so this is a picture of him. He was a eunuch. He was called the eunuch Zhenghe. How do we know that he's Buddhist? Many histories say that he was Muslim. But the way we know that he is Zhenghe is that in the there's a text printed in the beginning of the Ming Dynasty called the Sutra of the Lay Vows. And so this is said that it's written by the eunuch Zhenghe, who had great faith in the Buddhist teachings. Sonam Tashi. And so that he went with armies and great ships. He went across the Western Oceans to work for the emperor. And at that time, as he sailed across the great oceans, he was protected by the Buddhas and
Tin Gunor Tani, Sangi Yika, Gumar Pardu.
able to arrive and safely. And so he had no obstacles in the path. And so because he always had such gratitude in the heart, he was able to bring back great wealth. And so in the past, when you would travel by sea, it was extremely dangerous. And at that time, he would pray to the Buddhas and so forth. And for that reason, wherever he went, he was able to arrive there safely. And he always thought that this was the kindness of the Buddha, and because of this, he would go to great expense to print many Buddhist texts. Among them, one event that happened is that on the 5th year of the Yongle emperors, there was they printed the Buddha's words one time, and they kept it at the Lingu Monastery. It is written, and from that time, and during until the 4th year of the Ming Emperor Shungde, he had printed the 10 copies of the words of the Buddha. And he offered these to the great well-known monasteries at the various places in China. Now, when was the 12th day of the 3rd month by the Emperor Yongle? That was the day after the Deshe Shekpa had been given the titles by the Mongol emperor, by the Ming emperor. And so Zheng He went to the Lingu monastery. He offered the printed words of Buddha. This is at the same time as Deshe Shekpa was at the Lingu temple. And so it is not necessary to mention that he met Deshe Shekpa. We can say that this is the reason he was a student of the Zheng He. Also, old Chinese historical documents say that there's a clear connection between Zheng He and Deshe Shekpa, but I was not able to find that right now. So later, Zheng He, whom I showed this, the one wearing white in the middle, he went to Sri Lanka, and he brought a tooth of the Buddha back from Sri Lanka. And he offered it to the Chinese emperor. Later, the Chinese emperor would wrap it in gold and give it to Deshe Shekpa. So we can see that there is a strong connection between Zheng He and Karmapa Deshe Shekpa. So we can see from events such as these. So you can see from such events and such that there's a history of the Wutai mountain. And what it says about the topic of Deshe Shekpa, when writing about this, they said that he did not like fame or distractions, and his deeds are difficult for ordinary individuals to conceive of, and because his fame spread throughout China. And so this is writing the actual situations that happen. And so basically, Deshe Shekpa had a very, very strong influence in spreading Tibetan Buddhism among the Chinese people. So we can say that he was probably the first person or the primary person who spread the Buddhist teachings among the Chinese people. Now, because before this, during the Yuan or Mongol time, many great Buddha lamas went. The people in the palaces were primarily Mongolian, and the courtiers were primarily, and ordinary subjects were Chinese. And so during the Yuan dynasty, when the Mongols had power, Primarily the Mongolian people of high rank practiced Buddhism, but it didn't. But I doubt that it spread widely among the populace. And these days there are scholars who say similar things. Likewise, and so after, not only did Deshen Shepa have a great influence on spreading the Buddhism in China and spreading Tibetan Buddhism in China, as he returned to Tibet, he brought many Chinese artifacts, Chinese examples, and very sacred Chinese objects back to like the great the seal, the jade seed that we saw, and also in the this is like one of the greatest, one of the most important artifacts that's held in the Tibetan Museum. There's and he brought many also brought many other valuable things back with him to Tibet. And so but many different treasures called the Karma Gengun and so forth back to Tibet. They're considered very important. So these were there's like their cups and so forth that had very different really praised very highly. Not only that, these days in museums, we can see the Karma Genkara and if you have the Karma cups or the Karma Gendo, you think of these really very, very important. And then also antique dealers, if they have artifacts from the time of the Ming Dynasty and from the time of Deshen Shepa, they can sell them for very, very high price. To give an example, a few years ago, there was a tanka of red Yamantaka. And this was an applique or a sewn tanka. And this applique tanka was actually given by Kachep Dorje to the king of Sikkim. And the king of Sikkim gave it to a friend who abroad. And a few years ago, it was sold at an auction. It was a very big tanka. And it sold for 48 million American dollars. So if we explain that everything, and so it was because it said that they said all sorts of things about it being from the time of Deshen Shepa and related to him, and because they're very old. So when I thought about that time, the king of Sikkim was really kind of stupid about it. Someone said to me, if he had kept it, he would have been better off, they say. And so these are the events that happened to that. So I think that is enough about the Karmapa Deshen Shepa. So after that, I don't need to talk about the connections between the Chinese emperors and the 6th and 7th Karmapas. So now we'll have a break, and after that, I will speak in general about how the Chinese emperor invited Karmapa Mika Dorje to China.